Pastor R. Dallas Green, Amir Rashidian, and we are back. We're thinking that we're going to continue our discussion from last time, which was talking about how to be ambitious and biblical at the same time. How to go for the gold, but not be selfish about it, and do it for the glory of God, and improve yourself in the process. Mm-hmm. So let's start with the word. What do you have for us today?
Well, I remember your word structure, Amir, about how when people climb up the mountain, they come down differently than they went up.
Yes.
Because now they sort of conquered the mountain, right?
That's right.
They have trained for it, and now they come down a different person.
That's right.
Well, this has to do with bearing load. This is from Galatians chapter 6. And this is what the word says. Brothers, if someone is caught in a sin, now that's a load in itself, to be caught in a sin.
Yeah.
To have sort of stepped across some lines, across the boundaries, be caught in a sin. You who are spiritual should restore him gently. I love those words. Restore him gently. The person needs restoration.
Right.
But to be gentle with the person, because if we're harsh, it would just hinder the healing process.
Right.
But watch yourself, lest you also be tempted. So temptation has this allurement to us. So if we're restoring somebody, we want to not fall into what they've been into.
Exactly.
We want to help them out of what they've been into.
Right.
Then to our text, it says, carry each other's burdens. In this way you will fulfill the law of Christ.
Oh.
It's interesting that this person's burden is a burden greater than they can bear themselves.
Right.
It's a burden that's overtaken them, overwhelmed them.
Yeah.
And now the spiritual one comes alongside to help them carry that burden. Talking about the law of Christ talks about the law of love. That love isn't selfish. You know, selfishness has to do with excessively, exclusively thinking of myself, my own self-interest.
Right.
But love always takes me into someone else's life and considers what's best for them, even at personal sacrifice to myself. So when I begin to carry somebody's load, it's a temporary carrying of the load because it's too heavy for them to carry alone.
Right.
And it's fulfilling the law of Christ. And then it says, if anyone thinks he's something when he's nothing, he deceives himself. In other words, I'm all that.
That's right.
It's quite a lot of deception.
Yeah.
You know, when we think that we're more powerful than we really are, we deceive ourselves. Then it says, each one should test his own actions. Then he can take pride in himself without comparing himself to someone else. So, if for instance, I climbed the mountain, that's quite an achievement. But I shouldn't compare my achievement to someone else's achievement unless I feel proud of myself that I've done more than they've done, or less of myself that I haven't done what the others have done.
Yeah.
And now the final verse I want to speak to. It's Galatians chapter 6, verse 5. For each one should carry his own load. Isn't that interesting? That the word there for load means something manageable that I can carry. That I shouldn't do for somebody what they can do for themselves. But my role really is to encourage them to carry the load that they can carry.
Right.
So if that person is debating between climbing up the mountain or not, I want to help them in their preparation for that they can carry the load, right?
Right.
Each one of them is going to be carrying a load up that mountain. No one's going to go without a load.
Right.
They're carrying their food and their water and their tent and their clothing, and so they're going to be carrying their load. They've got to carry the load up the mountain.
Yeah.
I'm not going to carry the load for them.
Right.
So they've got to be able to carry that load. So we were talking when we finished the broadcast last time about an individual has this huge opportunity to advance in their career.
Yes.
But they've chosen to try to talk to their boss about not doing any public speaking.
That's right. I remember. Yes.
So they're saying that really, you know, speaking in front of people is something that gives me much stress. Like maybe our greatest fear is to speak in front of people. And so this person now has the anxiety of preparing for a speech and then delivering the speech and then seeing people's response to his speech. But all of that stresses him out. So rather than advance to a higher position, he's choosing to withdraw from the opportunity. What would you say to that person, Dr. Amir, about carrying his own load and kind of stepping into this versus backing away from it?
Yeah, You know, the question I would have for this person is, do you want to grow? Because growth happens when there's resistance. When we challenged, we rise to the occasion. Otherwise, there's no point to rising. It's the load we put on our bodies. It's a load we put on our minds. It's a load we put on our heart. You know, I could say that, you know, I don't want to learn anything else. I've learned as much as there is to learn, and I don't want to learn anymore, you know. And then someone says, did you know that in your field, you could actually specialize in this and grow your services or be able to help people in more ways?
Yeah.
And I would look at that and say, well, yes, I could, but it's too much stress, so I won't do it. It depends on my goal. Is my goal to be stress-free?
Yeah.
Because a stress-free life is a couch potato. The couch potato is the one who sits on the couch and he's probably renting part of the basement from his or her parents.
Or not paying
Or not paying rent, yeah, and eats potato chips and bonbons and watches daytime TV. That is a stress-free life. You know, I always joke around with people who say, I want to reduce stress in my life. I say, leave your family and quit your job.
It's like eating.
But yeah, best way to reduce stress. So with the person we're talking about is to, you know, it's stressful. But is it possible that over time, preparing for that speech will get easier? Is it possible that stepping up onto that stage is going to be a little less daunting over time? If the answer is yes, you go, well, how can we get there?
Yes. And I think too about the impact of what the person would say, what the personal growth they would go through, but also the impact they would have upon others if they were to step up to the challenge.
Right.
There may be a word they need to communicate to people, they need to hear.
Oh yeah.
That would be lost if they choose not to.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. There are many people who have amazing things to say that no one hears because they never speak up.
Yes, they're afraid.
That's right.
Yes. So how do we get ourselves in a training mode to be able to carry load? How does that happen? Like, how do we? I guess we have to decide that we're going to grow. Like,
it's a big decision. Yeah. It's
yeah.
a decision. The decision is about stress. You see, everybody wants the results, right? So a very easy example is the gold medalist. You know, the Olympic gold medals. Actually, the World Cup is about to start. You know, so people want that cup.
Yes.
You know, and then you go, well, can anybody get it? Well, no. And there are teams that have qualified that you can, with certainty, cross off your list and say, this team's never going to get it.
Yeah.
And then there are certain teams where you go, wow, they look like they have what it takes.
Yeah.
Did they just get that way? Were they born that way? I talk to my sons. And I say, what are the 3 rules of being a champion? And the 2-year-old can't recite it. but the one who's almost 5 and the 8-year-old, they'll say it. They say the rules are work harder than anybody else. Practice every day. And then the hardest one is believe in yourself.
Yeah.
So the mentality is believe that you can do it, but then go after it. It starts with the desire. The desire is not that, oh, I want to have that gold medal. I guarantee you the one who won the gold medal at the Olympics doesn't really care about the gold, cares about what that represents. And why does the gold medalist cry when they get that gold medal?
They've sacrificed so much for that.
Yeah. They feel all the pain and all the sacrifice.
Yeah.
And it all comes to a head at that one moment, and they're thinking it was worth it. And they would probably do it all over again if they had to.
Yes.
But there's no way it was handed to them. They made a decision. They said they're going to be willing to work. I mean, I tell them, you know, my son goes, oh, well, I want to be a great basketball player. I said, what if there is a child your age, another 8-year-old, somewhere in Nigeria, who shoots 1,000 free throws a day, dribbles the basketball for 2 hours nonstop, and does all these other exercises, and you only practice half hour a day. Who do you think is going to be the greater player?
I heard Michael Jordan say once that when the game was on the line, of course, he wanted to have one of Michael Jordan had the ball,
Yeah.
and he would sometimes have a free throw to win the game, and there would be like millions of people watching on television, and the crowd would be cheering pretty wildly. And I said, "How did you enable yourself to make it?" He said, "I went back to the gym where I had spent hours shooting free throws. I put myself in that position and just did what I did in practice." He had practiced himself
Wow.
to be able to perform
Yeah.
under pressure.
That's right. That's right. It's we grow as we challenge ourselves.
Yes.
You know, if he hadn't done that, I know a guy who he wanted to make the NFL. He wanted to be a safety, so he watched film of other safeties, and you know, safety is the one who defends the pass. You know, so they run backwards. So he said he was 8-9 years old. He decided he had to learn to run backwards faster than anybody can run forward. So he would wake up, he told his dad, he said, "Wake me up at 5 every morning." At 5 a.m., winter, summer, didn't matter. He went outside and he ran backwards. He would just do sprints backwards. Well, in 1985, he was drafted in the first round. He was the first safety to be drafted in the first round in '85. How incredible is that? And it was because he decided he wanted to do this. Now, had he not put in all that time, he talked about it. He says, you got to run the miles.
Yeah.
You run the miles to get to where you are. You put your head down and you do the work, and you work on getting better and better and better. And one day someone's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, "It's your turn. Are you ready?"
Probably nobody in the neighborhood understood what he was doing.
No, exactly.
Why is he backing up?
Yeah.
But he should be going forward.
Right.
But really, in backing up, he was going forward.
Exactly.
In his career.
Exactly.
He was making.
That's right.
Preparing himself.
Yeah, the stories like that are tremendous, and so many. Chrysler, when he was 18, he took his college fund and bought a car. He took it to his house, and in the driveway in front of his house, he took it apart into the smallest pieces and put it back together, and took it apart and put it back together, and everyone in the neighborhood thought he was out of his mind. And he started the Chrysler Corporation.
So the first tenet of success is working hard. The second one has to do with, say it again, Dr.
It was practice every day. So that's what I tell the kids, but it's about having an intentionality beyond where you want to go and who you want to be. Because if we're just going through the motions, it's not going to get there. We have to have an intention beyond it. Have I call it focused intensity. The more energy you put into something, the more it gives back to you. And so you challenge yourself. When you go to the gym and you lift that weight, and then you challenge yourself by attempting to lift one more rep. Or you add weight and you attempt to lift something you've never lifted before, and you try to lift it. And you keep trying till one day you can lift it. Then you try to do 2 repetitions and 3 repetitions, and then you add more weight. That's focused intensity. It's practicing with a outcome in your mind. And then the last one was belief. That you have to believe you can do it.
Yeah.
And you now it makes me think about the verse where Jesus said, "You can ask me for anything, and I will do it, because I want to give glory to the Father."
Yes.
So ask me for anything.
Yes.
And you go, okay, I really think if we become better people with more capacity and more capability, with the ability to give more, do more, serve more, help more, yes, it helps them and it helps us, but it also brings glory to the Father, because He's our Creator.
Yes.
How proud are you of your children?
Very proud.
You know, and when they do amazing things, it brings glory to you and pleases you.
Yes. So in believing in yourself, really, it has to do with the dependent relationship with God, of
Yes.
asking Him
Yes.
to empower
Yes.
us
Yeah.
and give.
Now there's some thought, and I want correction on this from you.
Okay.
Is there are a lot of people who say everything we desire is placed in our hearts from God, that He puts the desires of our hearts in our hearts. But that's not exactly the case, right? What's the truth behind that? Where, like, you know, if my desire is to drive a Bentley or a Rolls Royce, is that God's desire for me also? That's not exactly the case, right? What is the desire in our heart that God says He put in there?
Well, we're told to delight ourselves in the Lord. He will give us the desires of our heart.
Yes.
And to, above all else, to guard the heart, for it's the wellspring of our life. So as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. So it's possible in our hearts to think thoughts that glorify God. It's also possible to think thoughts that are very selfish.
Yes.
And then we have to discern whether this is something that glorifies God or whether this is totally about
Right.
me and
Yeah.
and selfishness.
Right.
So I think it's not a given, the fact that something's in my heart, it's a God-given desire. Sometimes I think what happens is when we pray, that gets ferreted out, the selfish desire that I have, selfish ambition, not being part of God's will for me, and it doesn't come to pass. And then sometimes when we pray, God shows us the path we should be on, and the desire of our heart begins to align with His heart for us.
Yes.
So at some point, Doctor, probably you became aware of the fact that God wanted you to be a chiropractor.
Yes.
And you began to do these three things, right? You began
Right.
to work hard, to practice every day,
Yeah.
and to believe you could do this.
Yes.
And now look at you, what you've become.
Right.
How many people you help through what you do.
Yeah, and constantly improving, constantly getting better too.
Yes.
You're never done. You're never done. You've got to keep going. As
Yeah.
long as we're alive, as long as we're breathing,
Yes.
we have an opportunity.
Yes.
That opportunity is to bring more glory to God. And really, I think it's one of those things where I think it was, and please forgive me if I get this part wrong, I thought it was Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Okay.
But it could have been Thoreau. But a famous author said, there's no way you can selflessly give without being selfish, because you always get back. You always have this joy that goes with it.
Mhm.
That's the joy that supersedes all these other joys of, you can accumulate some wealth, and that may be part of it, but the joy you actually get from becoming a better person and glorifying God and sharing that relationship with God, that's where.
So part of the reason why we practice hard and we believe we can do it and we work harder than anybody else is the load we're going to carry will be used as a blessing to somebody else.
Yes.
So you've learned your art of being a chiropractor to be a blessing to so many people.
Right.
And when a person steps under the load of whatever you're being asked to carry, that's not for your own self-fulfillment
Right.
as much as it is to be a blessing to someone else.
Right.
So
It's true.
I do what I do not for myself, but really to
Yeah.
be a benefit to someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, there are some people who also say, and I think I know the verse that they're trying to quote, but I think it's wrong, and maybe there's some people listening to us right now saying this. They say, God won't put a load on me beyond what I can handle.
Yeah.
And really, they're misquoting a verse that says you won't be tempted
Exactly.
beyond what you can handle, right? So the temptation, yes, God will always provide a way for you to get out of a temptation,
Yes.
a tempting scenario. But the load, there's no limit to the load. God will allow you to be under load that you cannot handle because God will help you.
Yes. And that's when Jesus said, "Come unto me, all ye are weary and heavy laden, and I
Yes.
will give you rest." There's a load we're designed to carry, and there's a load we need to lay at His feet we can't carry,
Yes.
that He will give us rest in.
Yeah.
So there is no limit. I sometimes also talk to people about how they're quoting that verse wrongfully, and I say, oh, many times in life, God's giving me a load I can't carry.
That's right.
And so what I have to do is I have to realize what my part of the load is, but the part I can't carry, I have to put at His feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means you need to be saved.
Yes. You
Because
do.
that same verse, the next part is, take my yoke
Yes.
upon you and learn from me. And the image is you always yoke two bulls together,
Yes.
right? You always yoke the weaker, younger bull with the bigger, stronger, more experienced bull.
Yes.
Because you want that one to pull most of the load, and you want this one to learn. Well, we're the weaker, smaller, younger
Yeah.
bull, and he says, just come get yoked with me, and I'll carry most of the load.
Yes. Yes.
You don't have to, hold on to that burden.
I think when I think about burdens, Dr. Amir, I think maybe we carry about 1%, and He carries 99%.
Yes.
So it's a very small part we carry.
Yeah.
But we need to carry our load. Each one should carry
Yes.
his own load,
Yeah.
because there's a strengthening goes on in that.
Right.
when my son Jimmy does the special forces training and they put on their rucksacks, they're
Yeah.
carrying a load of about 80 pounds.
Oh my
And
goodness.
sometimes when they land, it's about 120 pounds.
Wow.
So you need to have some strength to be able to carry that kind of weight on your back.
And endurance.
Endurance. And for miles. You know,
Yeah.
20 miles of carrying this thing. And sometimes if someone's injured or taken out, you have to carry the person. So you have
Wow.
to put this heavy person on your back and carry them out. So each one has to carry his own load. And so, you know, one of the issues there is, can the person who's in the training carry their own load?
Right.
You have to have sufficient strength and endurance to be able
Right.
to, you know, manage that.
And that's exactly my point, is they don't get there overnight.
No.
On day one of basic training,
No.
they don't do that. They start lighter. First, let's see if they can walk 20 miles. Then let's see if they can jog the 20 miles. Then let's push them a little bit. Now they do push them. I know that the training is quite difficult and intense right off the bat, but they get stronger and stronger.
And I've heard about the Navy SEALs that sometimes they'll drop them out of a helicopter or a plane that's several thousand feet
Wow.
with scuba gear on, and they'll come to the bottom of the sea, and they'll take a nap in the bottom of the sea, and then they'll swim to a ship
What?
and do explosives, and then they'll, you know, swim to shore, and that's all of what they do in a night, you know, then have breakfast.
Amazing.
So they learn how to carry their own load.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And
And
train for it.
we're so thankful for them.
How would you help, Dr. Amir, somebody who may right now be carrying a load that seems very burdensome, overwhelming to them? They really don't know, like, next steps, like how to begin to. I mean, I think we want to, when we have a heavy load, to kind of offload the load.
Yes. Yes.
We get it off of us.
Yes.
We don't want to carry that load, right? So the tendency is sort of like, I'm just going to take that load and put it
Yeah.
aside. I'm going to turn down the opportunity to move up in my career.
Right.
I'm going to turn down the speech opportunity.
Yes.
But how do I help that person just to step into this?
Believe. Believe it'll get easier.
Yeah.
Believe you have to keep moving forward. You persevere, right? There's a lot in the Word about perseverance.
Yes.
You pick up your cross, you carry it.
Yes.
You follow Jesus. You believe He's going to help you through this. But you cannot quit.
Yeah.
You got to go. Believe you're going to get stronger. Every step, you're getting stronger. It may feel like you're getting weaker, but you're getting stronger. A while back, I was preparing for that sermon we did at church, and I found a survey was done of people, and they said, they asked everybody what's the best thing that ever happened to you. And the expectation was they would say, oh, meeting my bride, or seeing my child be born, or the day I was married, or the day I won that gold medal. But the top 4 or 5 answers were things like cancer, and being homeless, and going through bankruptcy, and being put in prison. Those were the things that were the best thing that happened to these people. At the time, you don't think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
At the time, you think it's a burden that's too much and you can't handle it. But you push through,
Yeah.
and then one day, hopefully, you're able to say, actually, that was the best thing that happened to me. Because you become someone bigger and better. I've heard it said, when you go through tremendous tragedy,
Yeah.
you find a level of intimacy with God that no one else experiences.
Yes.
I haven't had cancer.
Yeah.
Now, you've been near death before.
Yes.
And you can speak to this, is
Yes.
that there is a level of intimacy you find with God that you can't get in any other situation.
You never know, Dr. Amir, that God is all you need until God is all you have.
Yes.
And when God is all you have, then and only then you understand that God is all you need. That He is sufficient. He is totally all that we crave and long for, is the closeness of God. And I came to this place in my life where, God, I'm just trusting you no matter what the outcome is. And I sometimes so wish I could go back to that place of just like pure reliance upon Him.
Wow.
God and nothing else.
Yes.
Because now my life has lots of other complications.
I understand.
Then it was just about trusting Him
Yeah.
in that very sweet place. And He carried me through, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So I've had cancer and I've come close to death. But, someone asked me, like, do you think you're 100% back? And I think, no, I'm more like 105% back.
Yes,
I
exactly.
think I'm better than I've ever been.
Yes.
Because I've been in that experience.
Because you carried the burden.
Carried the burden.
Yeah.
And He carried me.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's wonderful.
So each one should carry his own load. So don't step away from the load that you're being asked to carry. There's a load that you need to carry, and you need to believe you carry it, and God can carry you through whatever situation you're walking through now.
Yeah. Tough times make you stronger.
They do. Thank you, Dr. Amir.
Thank you. That was a good one. Hopefully you benefited from that, and hopefully you'll join us again next time. Put some comments on the video below, and tell us what you want us to talk about, and hopefully we'll start a conversation together.
Good.
Groove. Wow.